On the day of my coming-of-age ceremony, I got drunk and was deflowered by a poor scholar who was studying at our home. My parents were furious and hastily married me off. Only my elder sister added to my dowry, tearfully saying, "If you face any difficulties in the future, come to me for help." Everyone praised my elder sister for her kindness, saying that although she was a fake heiress, she was a true noble lady nurtured by the Prime Minister's household for many years. That year, my elder sister married into the royal family, while I, the true noble daughter, was humiliatingly wedded into a scholar's thatched cottage. 3 years later, I was tormented by the scholar into severe illness and fled back to the capital to beg my elder sister for help. By then, my sister was dressed in luxurious attire, radiant with glory, nestled in the arms of her husband, who had become the crown prince. Seeing me on the verge of death, she mocked me. "Little sister, don't you know yet? On your coming-of-age day, you drank the wine I handed you, which made you feverish and unable to resist. Lured into bed by that scholar, you're the true daughter of the family. Once you come of age, how could the good marriage to the crown prince ever fall to me? I had no choice but to use some tricks." I died with bitter resentment, only to open my eyes and find myself back on the day of my coming-of-age ceremony. My elder sister was smiling as she offered me a toast. She had no idea that this glass of wine would become the cup of passion between me and her husband. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. A love potion had been slipped into the wine. Once consumed, the potion would render a woman limp as spring water, while a man would turn beastly. Without timely release, his blood would reverse flow and lead to death. My sister was clever. She had coated the poison on the rim of the glass. In her previous life, she smashed the cup right after the toast, leaving no evidence, so the first thing I did upon rebirth was to switch her cup amidst the crowd. Then I guided her to offer the second toast to Prince Qin. Gu Jiuzhao. Gu Jiuzhao was the future crown prince, my sister's beloved, and my soon-to-be brother-in-law. I drank my sister's wine right in front of her, but the cup truly laced with aphrodisiac had actually been consumed by Prince Qin. Half a quarter hour later, in the rear courtyard side chamber, Prince Qin, who had slipped away alone to the garden to sober up, stumbled and fell into my arms. Indeed, his breathing was rapid, his entire body burning hot. Exactly like the symptoms I had experienced after being dropped in my past life, I took the initiative to throw myself into his arms, and the Prince of Qin embraced me like a furnace clutching a block of ice, not only refusing to let go but immediately loosening his robes and belt. Eager for our skin to touch, the most terrifying aspect of the aphrodisiac was its power to strip a noble prince of all dignity and decorum, reducing him to submission before the most primal of desires. Yet I remained fully conscious, guiding him to a side chamber near the garden to avoid the other man who might come searching. Once inside the room, the Prince of Qin completely lost control, pressing me beneath him as he murmured my name against my face with slurred passion. Jinrong. Jiang Jinrong is my sister's name. Before I was recognized and brought back, Jiang Jinrong, as the only legitimate daughter of the first-rank general, was qualified to enter the palace as a study companion for the princes. During her time as a companion, she went to great lengths to win the affection of Prince Qin, finally succeeding in making him fall for her as well. My sister is madly in love with Prince Qin, and he harbors affection for her as well. In my past life, I always regarded Prince Qin as my future brother-in-law, never considering competing with my sister for a man as the true heiress. Now, I coyly yield to the fierce advances of my would-be brother-in-law. In this life, I will not only reclaim everything that belongs to me but also steal the man my sister loves most. My sister would never have imagined that the glass of wine she handed me would become the warm, passionate wine between me and my soon-to-be brother-in-law. After an intense hour, Gu Jiuzhao, under the influence of alcohol, fell into a brief state of satiation and unconsciousness. At this moment, his body was flushed, his chest and neck covered with the ambiguous bite marks I had left. I admired the masterpiece I had created on my soon-to-be brother-in-law. The last time I scrutinized this man in such minute detail was in that cold winter of my past life. At that time, dragging a body covered in festering sores, I fled to the capital and knocked on the crown prince's mansion door. 3 years prior, I had married down to the impoverished scholar Duan Yuan, while my elder sister married up into the Prince Chen's household. 3 years later, I escaped from the scholar's grasp, dragging crippled legs and covered in syphilitic sores, arriving in the capital in utter wretchedness to beg for help. Meanwhile, my sister had risen in status along with Prince Qin, becoming the incomparably noble crown princess. As soon as she saw me, my sister buried her nose deeper into her snow-white fox fur coat. "What filthy disease has my little sister caught?" she recoiled in fear, whereupon Gu Jiaozhao stepped to her side, wrapping a strong arm around her to shield her tightly in his embrace while eyeing me warily and asking his subordinate, "Where did this beggar come from, daring to bump into the crown princess?" I stared blankly at this man. Gu Jiaozhao was dressed in a black and gold python robe. His jet-black hair tied up with a golden crown, and a jade belt cinching his wasp-like waist. His noble elegance was dazzling. Why could my sister marry such an incomparably noble and tenderly considerate husband? And yet I have to resign myself to marrying down to a poor scholar who gambles and womanizes. Clearly, I am the true daughter of the Prime Minister's household, while my sister is the fake daughter deliberately swapped by the wet nurse. By the time I was found and brought back to the Prime Minister's residence, Jiang Jinrong had already spent 18 years as the legitimate daughter of the household. On the day I entered the household, she cautiously tried to win me over with a stick of candied hawthorn. "Little sister, can you please not drive me away?" As she spoke, tears welled up in her eyes, and the way our parents looked at me carried a subtle hint of accusation. The dove occupies the magpie's nest. And when the magpie returns, the other birds in the nest fear neglecting the dove. Just like now, my elder sister remains the pampered noble lady, while I, covered in filth, am no different from a beggar. Before the subordinate could respond, my sister spoke up to explain, "Your Highness, this is my younger sister Jiang Jinha, who married into Song Yang, the very one who got drunk at her coming-of-age ceremony 3 years ago and fooled around with that scholar." Only then did Gu Jiaozhou understand. "Your Highness, please go inside, I'll take care of my sister." Gu Jiaozhou didn't ask too many questions. He adjusted Jiang Jinrong's fox fur cloak and gently reminded her, "It's cold outside, don't stay too long." Jiang Jinrong shyly agreed. Only after the crown prince's figure had completely disappeared into the garden did Jiang Jinrong, supported by her maid, step down from the stairs and approach me with a concerned expression. How could my sister contract such a filthy disease? With tears in my eyes, I explained, "Sister, after Duan Yuan married me, he went to the brothel every night to seek the courtesan's company. Within a year, he had squandered all my dowry. He claimed he wanted to pursue scholarly honors, but instead, he indulged in debauchery day after day. When drunk, he would beat me. My legs were broken by him. He even brought back diseases from outside and infected me. In Song Yang, crying to heaven brings no answer, and pleading to earth brings no relief." My hands trembled as I spread them open, the palms still stained with a foul, congealed blood. I couldn't take it anymore. I smashed Duan Yuan's head. "Songyang County is hunting me down." I risked my life to flee back to the capital. But my parents shut the door on me. Elder sister once said, "If little sister ever had nowhere to turn, I could come and beg for your help." I knelt down, clutching Jiang Jinrong's fox fur coat, weeping pitifully. "Sister, save me. Duan Yuan deserved to die. I don't want to pay with my life for him. These syphilitic sores all over my body, they hurt, they're so filthy. Please, sister, find me a doctor, help me seek justice, give me a way to survive." Duan Yuan was originally a scholar studying under the patronage of the Prime Minister's residence. That year, I got drunk at my coming-of-age ceremony and was taken advantage of by Duan Yuan in a daze, right in a pavilion under broad daylight, completely exposed, and we were caught in the act by everyone. I had only been recognized and brought back to the Prime Minister's residence for less than half a year when this incident occurred. Furious, my parents hastily arranged my marriage afterward. On the day of my wedding, only Jiang Jinrong added to my dowry. She held my hand and said, "Jinha, if you ever find yourself in desperate straits, you may come to your elder sister for help." Everyone praised Jiang Jinrong for her beauty and kindness. So what if she's a fake heiress? After 16 years of upbringing in the Prime Minister's household, she's already become a true noble lady. I, too, believed my sister was noble and kind-hearted, so I risked my life to return to the capital, begging her for a way to survive. Her plump face did indeed resemble that of a benevolent bodhisattva, but suddenly the corners of her lips curled, and her eyes turned cold. I said those words back then because I had long foreseen that marrying Duan Yuan would make your life a living hell. I froze. "Sister, what are you talking about? Haven't you figured it out yet?" Jiang Jinrong leaned in close and whispered sinisterly into my ear. "The wine I gave you at your coming-of-age ceremony was laced with an aphrodisiac poison. That's why you felt unbearably hot and stripped off your clothes in broad daylight in the pavilion. And Duan Yuan was part of my plan all along. I had him wait in the rockery by the pavilion. ready to take advantage when you completely lost your senses. I timed it perfectly, bringing all the guests just in time to witness your disgrace, so on that day, everyone attending your coming-of-age ceremony took part in catching you in the act. Jiang Jinhe, your reputation was ruined, and you could never hope for a good marriage. Why? Jiang Jinrong suddenly grabbed my hair bun. Ever since you returned, I've become a laughingstock. I was once the pearl cherished in the palms of father and mother, but your appearance has turned me into the cheapest fish eye. The coming-of-age ceremony father and mother gave you was truly grand. All the dignitaries and nobles of the imperial city came to celebrate. You stole the glory that rightfully belonged to me. A girl is ready for marriage once she comes of age, and our parents will surely favor you, their own flesh and blood. If I don't resort to some tricks, this excellent match with the Prince of Chen's mansion will fall into your hands. Prince Chen has a boundless future. I've put in so much effort just to make him notice me. And now your appearance threatens to ruin everything. I will never allow it. Don't blame me either. Every man for himself, or heaven and earth will destroy you. If I hadn't resorted to some underhanded tactics back then, it would be me suffering a miserable fate today. Jiang Jinrong laughed. Fortunately, now I am the crown princess, and you are a beggar woman. My eyes widened in horror. A wail stuck in my throat, turning into a sudden gush of metallic-tasting blood that sprayed out. Jiang Jinrong's fox fur was stained with my black blood as she kicked me down into the snow. Immediately, officers surrounded me, and the magistrate of the imperial city arrived on the scene. Jiang Jinhe murdered her husband in Songyang County and fled to the capital. Since ancient times, a life must be paid for a life. Magistrate Zhang, do not show favoritism or bend the law. Magistrate Zhang replied, Your Highness the Crown Princess, please enlighten me. Let her pay with her life to accompany her pitiful husband in death. Jiang Jinrong. I howled with blood tears, only to have my teeth smashed by the officer's bamboo boards. Jiang Jinrong removed her soiled fox fur cloak and adjusted the phoenix coronet of the crown princess upon her head. Little sister, 20 years ago, I took your place as the daughter of the prime minister's household. 20 years later, I took your place as the crown princess. All the fortune meant for your life has fallen into my hands. You just accept your fate. Her laughter was sharp and piercing. My fury burned within me, my body covered in festering sores, and I died in agony, consumed by hatred. Before death, all I saw was the endless snowfall covering the majestic towers and pavilions of the crown prince's residence. If there is a next life, I will surely become the mistress of this place and trample all those who harmed me beneath my feet. When I snapped out of the memories of my past life, Gu Jiaozhao had already awakened, his gaze gradually clearing. He recognized that the person by his pillow was me and almost instantly grabbed my neck. You dare scheme against this prince? I weakly struggled a couple of times, revealing the bruises and red marks he had left on my shoulders. By all appearances, I was the one who had been taken advantage of. Gu Jiaozhao, feeling guilty, loosened his grip. I coughed violently twice and retorted, I was resting in the side chamber when the prince, drunk, barged into the inner room and he did this to me. My shoulders trembled as I wept, my tears falling like pear blossoms in the rain. Gu Jiaozhao, feeling guilty from my sobbing, rubbed his temples in confusion. How could that be? My alcohol tolerance is excellent, and I barely drank any wine today. But the prince was clearly drunk, his face flushed crimson, completely devoid of reason. No matter how much I cried and begged for mercy, it was useless. Gu Jiaozhao quickly sensed something amiss. Could the wine have been drugged? I pretended to be enlightened by his words and began to reason with feigned seriousness. Today is my coming-of-age ceremony, and I only drank 1 cup of wine, the one my sister personally handed to me. I remember the prince also drank the wine my sister offered him in the end. Could it be my sister? If it was truly my sister's deliberate scheme, neither I nor his highness can stay here any longer. Gu Jiaozhao sternly defended, absolutely impossible. Jinrong is kind-hearted and would never stoop to such despicable behavior. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of people searching came from outside the house. First came my mother's anxious voice. Her Majesty the Empress is about to arrive. As the protagonist of today's coming-of-age ceremony, Jinhe must not be discourteous. Find her quickly. Next came Jiang Jinrong. Mother, I don't know if I should mention this. Just now, the maid saw Sister Jinhe entering the inner courtyard garden with an outsider. They've disappeared without a trace. Could they be meeting secretly in some pavilion or side room? In my past life, my coming-of-age ceremony did indeed alarm Her Majesty the Empress. The Empress and my mother were once close friends in their youth. Her attendance at my coming-of-age ceremony was essentially to assess me as a potential match for the Prince of Qin. The imperial court intended to arrange a marriage alliance between the Prime Minister's residence and the Eastern Palace, Crown Prince's household. Jiang Jinrong was originally the heaven-chosen consort for the Prince of Qin, unfortunately, before the marriage could be formally settled. She was exposed as a counterfeit noble daughter, her birth mother being merely a dancing girl from a pleasure house. Though she wasn't expelled from the Prime Minister's residence, her current status was undeniably awkward. The royal family values bloodline purity above all else. To put it bluntly, Jiang Jinrong was the child of a woman of slave status. Though the empress showed no outward reaction upon learning this, it undoubtedly left her somewhat unsettled inwardly. Her visit today was to assess the true heiress of the Prime Minister's household, to evaluate her appearance, character, and whether she was worthy of the position of Qin Prince's consort. Jiang Jinrong was aware of the empress's thoughts, so she set up a trap with drugs, intending for the empress to witness me, the true heiress, disheveled and lying beneath an outsider in the pavilion. In my past life, when the empress saw this scene, she flew into a rage. My parents hastily married me off to prevent me from tarnishing the reputation of the entire Prime Minister's household. The more disgraceful I appeared, the more Jiang Jinrong could erase the stain of being a fake heiress. The sheer malice of her intentions is evident. This time, when she didn't find me in the pavilion with her people, she immediately led them to the nearby side room. Soon, they noticed that the door to my room was slightly ajar. "Sister Jinha, are you inside?" Jiang Jinrong didn't push the door open directly but politely asked first. Gu Zhuzhao looked utterly embarrassed, his body now covered with my marks, the vivid bite marks on his neck still glistening, and the flush of lingering desire still visible at the tips of his ears. "Don't worry, Your Highness," I whispered, "I'll handle them. Your Highness can leave through the small window, rest assured. Not a single word of what happened today will leave my lips." Gu Zhuzhao was slightly startled. "Then what about you?" The precarious bed before them, with its damp and disheveled bedding, would make it obvious to anyone who glanced at it what had transpired here, even without a man present. With an innocent expression, I said, "If this was just a simple case of drunken misbehavior, I'm sure my sister wouldn't hold it against me." I picked up the python robe that had fallen to the ground for Gu Zhuzhao, blinking my clear eyes as I spoke with an air of innocence and sincerity. "Your Highness, this humble subject never intended to use this matter to coerce you into anything." Gu Zhuzhao looked at me with a completely new gaze. "Little sister, if you don't agree, your elder sister will have to push the door open and come in." Jiang Jinrong's voice came through, aggressive and unyielding. Under Gu Zhuzhao's watchful gaze, I hastily threw on my outer robe and stepped out from behind the screen, saying, "Sister, I'm a bit drunk and was resting here for a while. Is that so?" Jiang Jinrong's tone carried a hint of sarcasm. "Little sister, why does your voice sound so hoarse? Does drunkenness harm the throat?" I feigned a couple of coughs. Perhaps the wine made me catch a chill. "In that case, I must come in and take a look." With that, Jiang Jinrong pushed the door open from outside, accompanied by mother and several well-known noblewomen from official families. In my past life, it was this same group who came to catch me in the act. Flustered, I instinctively covered my chest, but it only drew their immediate attention to the marks on my body. The lingering damp heat in the room caused everyone's expressions to subtly change. The noblewomen exchanged knowing glances. My mother lowered her voice and scolded angrily. "Jinha, what have you done in here?" "Mother, I didn't do anything," I said, taking 2 steps back in a manner that only served to arouse suspicion, shielding the screen behind me. Jiang Jinrong's gaze was filled with aggression as she stared at the screen and me. "Sister, could it be that you're engaging in some illicit affair with some wild man in this room?" "Sister, I don't know what you're talking about." Jiang Jinrong had always presented herself as cultured, reasonable, gentle, and considerate to the outside world, but at this moment, in her effort to crush me, she actually revealed a trace of exasperation, as if disappointed by my failure to meet her expectations. "I warned you long ago that you should be strictly supervised upon returning to the mansion. Your foster mother was a dancing girl from a brothel, raised by her. You've been influenced by what you saw and heard. Could it be that, like those prostitutes, you can't go a moment without a man?" "Sister, no matter how unworthy my foster mother may be, she is still your birth mother. You should watch your words." Jiang Jinrong detested any mention of her true origins. Stung by my public remark, her expression darkened instantly. "A mere prostitute, to be evaluated by my golden words. Consider it her posthumous glory. In my past life, When I was framed in the pavilion, I was so terrified that I could only weep and beg. At that time, Jiang Jinrong comforted me with a kind and gentle face, which led me to believe she was a good elder sister all along. Now, all it took was a few words of retort from me to provoke her true nature, daring to engage in illicit relations at your coming-of-age ceremony. No wonder your voice is hoarse, Jiang Jinrong pressed aggressively. Who is the adulterer, sister? How can you slander my innocence without any evidence? My voice trembled on the verge of tears, the ending soft and delicate. Jiang Jinrong thought I was crying out of guilt, but in truth, my tears were meant for Gu Jiuzhao alone. My foster mother was once the unrivaled courtesan in her youth. She taught me that to capture a man's heart, even crying requires skill. Sister insists I have a lover, and brings so many noble ladies with her. Could this be a premeditated attempt to catch me in the act? I desperately shielded the screen. Today, I was inexplicably drunk and unconscious. Was this sister's doing? Jiang Jinrong was struck to the heart by my words and grew somewhat frantic. Whether you're innocent or not will be clear once we see if there's a lover behind that screen. Move aside. She pushed me away with her hands, and in my delicate state, I fell, bringing the screen down with me. With a loud crash, the disheveled bed curtains revealed a man indeed sitting upright on the bed with his back turned. My sister gloated with schadenfreude, but I felt a wave of relief wash over me. He truly couldn't bear to leave me alone to face this mess. At least he's a man who takes responsibility. The crowd gasped in shock. Jiang Jinha really was meeting a man in secret, to do such a thing during her coming-of-age ceremony. What a disgrace to the Prime Minister's household. My mother also screamed, Jinha, you truly are worthless mud that can't be propped up. Who is this adulterer? No, mother. I knelt on the ground, flustered as I tried to explain. Jiang Jinrong had already walked to the bedside, confident and composed. Who the adulterer is, I'll see with my own eyes and know for sure. Turn around. She was practically commanding the man on the bed. The man remained motionless. I crawled on my knees to Jiang Jinrong's feet. Sister, this is all my fault. At worst, I'll hang myself with a white silk rope, but please don't make things difficult for him. Move aside. Jiang Jinrong kicked me away, thinking the man before her was the scholar Duan Yuan she had arranged. A scholar daring to disobey her orders. Her heart burned with inexplicable fury. She pressed a hand on the man's shoulder, her tone growing even harsher. I told you to turn around. The man finally turned around, his sharp brows and eyes exuding a dark, oppressive authority and anger as he coldly stared at Jiang Jinrong. The adulterer is this prince. Are you satisfied now, Jinrong? Jiang Jinrong widened his eyes in terror. Why, your highness, someone was the first to react. Dropping to their knees with a thud. How could it be you, your highness? Jiang Jinrong was as if the sky had fallen, trembling and stammering in fear. She suddenly looked at me. I raised my hand to touch my throat, silently taunting her. The sister. Weren't you curious why my voice was hoarse? Of course it's because brother-in-law hurt me. You wretched woman, it's you. Jiang Jinrong realized she had fallen into a trap. Furious, she cursed and tried to lunge at me, but was yanked away by a pair of large hands. Gu Jiuzhao shielded me behind him, eyeing Jiang Jinrong with a peculiar expression. In his memory, Jiang Jinrong had always been gentle, considerate, virtuous, and well-mannered, yet just now, she was so harsh, pressing step by step, and even cursed with a ferocious expression. No different from a shrew, she was completely unlike the Jiang Jinrong he had admired, or perhaps, this was Jiang Jinrong's true nature. He grew up in the imperial palace and had seen too many scheming, two-faced people with smiling faces. Could Jiang Jinrong be one of them? Gu Jiuzhao's gaze was chillingly intimidating. Under his scrutiny, Jiang Jinrong suddenly realized her impropriety and quickly knelt down, adopting her most practiced look of innocence. Your highness, this concubine was only afraid that you might be drugged and framed, which is why I acted so hastily and lost my composure. Jiang Jinrong declared with certainty. I have studied with his highness for many years and know him best. He has always been disciplined and courteous, able to drink 1,000 cups without faltering. How could he possibly be so drunk as to lose his composure today? Someone must have drugged the wine, with ill intentions. Tears welled up in the corners of my eyes. Sister, your insinuations. Are you trying to falsely accuse me of drugging Prince Qin? You're still pretending, Jiang Jinrong? Seeing me cowering behind Gu Jiuzhao, was furious. If not you, then who else could it be? The only one who benefits from this is you, Jiang Jinha. Proving it is simple, just call a physician to take the pulse. We'll see if the prince has been poisoned. Gu Jiuzhao also thought the same. To ensure fairness, He sent his trusted aide directly to the front hall to summon Physician Li from the banquet. This incident thus alarmed all the guests present that day. Physician Li took Gu Jiujiao's pulse and quickly reached a conclusion. Your Highness suffers from an imbalance of yin and yang, with excessive internal heat, a clear sign of aphrodisiac poisoning. It appears you have been afflicted by a potent and lewd toxin. If this poison is not alleviated in time, it may lightly damage one's foundation, or severely cause a reverse flow of qi and blood leading to death. Who would be so vicious as to dare to drug a prince? When the imperial physician described the effects of the poison, Jiang Jinrong remained completely unfazed. From the moment she decided to drug me, she sought only two outcomes: either I would die in a wretched and sudden manner, or be caught in bed with someone, utterly disgraced. But these underhanded tricks have now been turned against the man she loves most. The room was already packed with people. The general, who had always been on close terms with the Prince of Chen's household, said, "Your Prime Minister's residence must have a death wish, daring to use such methods against His Highness the Prince of Qin. Your Highness, please calm your anger." My parents knelt on the ground, regardless of who administered the drug. The Prince of Qin had nearly suffered an incident at the Prime Minister's residence. "Father, Mother, you need not apologize. His Highness the Prince of Qin is benevolent and virtuous, and would never implicate the innocent." Jiang Jinrong, assuming the demeanor of the hostess, spoke on behalf of the Prince of Qin. "The most urgent matter now is to identify the one who administered the poison." She fixed her gaze intently on me. "Jinha, do you dare to let the imperial physician examine your pulse as well?" I gripped my own wrist and asked warily, "Sister, what do you mean by this? If you were also poisoned with lust, it would be somewhat understandable. But if your pulse is normal and you're not poisoned, it means you were fully conscious the whole time." A proper young lady, when encountering a delirious prince, should call for the imperial physician and seek a remedy, not lure him into bed. By doing this, little sister, aren't you just trying to cling to the Qin palace and become the Qin princess consort? Jiang Jinrong reached out to straighten my collar, disdainfully exposing me. "Stop pretending as if you were violated against your will. It was clearly your intention all along. You just wanted to force Prince Qin to marry you on your coming-of-age ceremony day, didn't you?" That drugged wine harmed Gu Jiujiao, so Jiang Jinrong concluded that I hadn't drunk that cup of wine. Her gaze at me was overflowing with unmistakable murderous intent. Even if her scheme was exposed, she was determined to crush me in this game. Clutching my wrist, I took 2 steps back and vehemently denied. I didn't drug the prince. I'm a victim too, if you didn't do it." "Why are you running away?" a mocking voice rang out. I turned to see my own brother, Jiang Haoyu. He walked to Jiang Jinrong's side and said to Prince Qin, "Your Highness, this drug is so vicious. If both parties were drugged, then Jiang Jinha could be considered innocent. But if Jiang Jinha remained completely sober while only your Highness was intoxicated and confused, it's hard not to suspect that she drugged herself to seduce the prince." I stared at Jiang Haoyu. After all, I was his own sister, the one who shared his striking resemblance in the eyes and brows. Yet at this moment, to shield Jiang Jinrong, his words left me no room at all. According to Qi Kingdom's marriage customs, if a woman has an elder brother, it is he who should escort her out of her parental home when she marries. In my past life, I married down to a poor scholar. Jiang Haoyu only sent a servant to deal with me, and the servant relayed a message. The eldest young master said, "Miss, your behavior is dissolute. Though we share blood ties, the young master is ashamed to associate with you. After your marriage, you'd better behave yourself." Later, when Jiang Jinrong got married, Jiang Haoyu not only escorted her all the way but was also said to have cried until his eyes turned red. Heartbreak happens in an instant. As for these so-called blood relatives, I had long since given up on them. I can only ever rely on myself. As soon as Jiang Haoyu spoke, voices of support for Jiang Jinrong rose one after another from the surrounding crowd. The county princess of the Qi family sneered, knowing full well that Prince Chen and Jinrong are deeply in love, with only an imperial decree of marriage missing. This Jiang Jinha must have drugged the prince to steal this advantageous match, hoping to force him into marriage by making it a done deal. The heir of the He family mocked, though blood ties are precious. Having been lost for 18 years and raised by such people, this biological daughter truly can't compare to a genuinely noble lady like Jinrong, who was meticulously cultivated. The young master of the Zhang family raised his voice. "Jiang Jinha, stop pretending. Confess honestly, did you drug the prince just to steal Jinrong's marriage arrangement, and on your own coming-of-age ceremony, no less? How shameless can you be? These three came from noble families and, alongside Jiang Jinrong, were collectively known as the four noble gentlemen of the imperial city. When I was first recognized and brought back to the capital, these three lured me to the Jade Pavilion, claiming they wanted to host a banquet in my honor. Halfway through the meal, all these young nobles from prestigious families found excuses to leave, leaving me alone to foot the bill. That was when I learned that such a small table of dishes could cost 100 taels of silver in the imperial city. I had just been recognized and brought back to the Prime Minister's residence, with only a few taels of silver on me, feeling so awkward and at a loss. In the end, the shopkeeper detained me in the restaurant until nightfall. When Jiang Haoyu finally came to take me away, his face dark with anger, that day, I was utterly humiliated. Word spread throughout the imperial capital that the Prime Minister's newly recognized true daughter was a poor girl suddenly turned rich, daring to show off by ordering the most expensive dishes at the Jade Pavilion as soon as she returned. When I returned to the residence, Jiang Jinrong and her three friends were waiting for me at the gate. Jiang Jinrong stepped forward, took my hand, and smiled apologetically. "Jinha, my friends were just teasing you, don't take it to heart," though she said so. The way her friends, including Jiang Jinrong herself, looked at me was as sharp as if they were scrutinizing a rat that had crawled out of the gutter into the sunlight. That day, I was nearly drowned in embarrassment and self-loathing. Jiang Jinrong had been the cherished daughter of the Prime Minister's household for 18 years and had long established a network of connections in the imperial capital, with herself at the center, regardless of right or wrong. These noble young masters from prestigious families would unconditionally defend Jiang Jinrong. Just like now, they all spoke at once, leaving me no chance to argue. The noble ladies and court officials nearby also looked at me with subtle gazes, as if they were certain this was the truth. Jiang Jinrong, who had the upper hand, gently persuaded, "As a woman myself, I understand your thoughts. You were raised outside the family since childhood, and your foster mother was a prostitute. It's inevitable you'd pick up some vulgar tricks." "I didn't," I said, shaking my head with tears in my eyes while shrinking back 2 steps in fear. "Didn't?" Jiang Jinrong pressed closer to me. "Then why are you so guilty? Let the imperial physician check your pulse, and everything will be clear." I looked up at Gu Jiuzhao for help. "Your Highness, believe me, I was framed too. I'm innocent." Gu Jiuzhao grasped my arm. "Jinha, let the imperial physician examine your pulse. If you're innocent, it will convince everyone." The arm he held began to tremble uncontrollably. Jiang Jinrong's eyes flashed with triumph as she snatched my arm away, allowing Physician Li to take over and press his fingers against my pulse. I shrank back timidly, trying to pull my arm free, drawing mockery from Jiang Jinrong's friends. "Look at her guilty expression. Clearly she's the one who drugged him." No doubt about it, women raised in brothels are all the same, throwing themselves at men's beds, thinking they can turn into phoenixes by climbing the social ladder. How laughable. Chancellor Jiang, with all due respect, Jinrong's character is 100 times nobler than your own daughter's. Silence. The matter is not yet settled. Who gave you permission to gossip like this? Did you learn no manners at all during your time as palace companions? Gu Jiuzhao's sharp rebuke finally made the haughty young nobles reluctantly shut their mouths. Only Jiang Haoyu remained indignant. "Your Highness, she's already this guilty. Why bother with verification? She's clearly the pulse of Miss Jinha." Before Jiang Haoyu could finish, Imperial Physician Li suddenly stroked his graying beard and frowned, saying, "This pulse." Jiang Jinrong couldn't wait to press further. "What about the pulse? She didn't take the medicine. She lied, didn't she?" Imperial Physician Li released her wrist and concluded, "This pulse is as restless and rapid as His Highness Prince Chen's. It's a symptom of weakened qi and blood after being harmed by an aphrodisiac." Jiang Jinrong was shocked. "What did you say?" The previously noisy noble children, along with Jiang Haoyu who was eager to convict me, were all frozen in place. Imperial Physician Li delivered the final verdict. Both must have been simultaneously poisoned with a potent aphrodisiac. And Miss Jinha's symptoms are more severe than the prince's. During an episode, one is inevitably unconscious, with thoughts and actions beyond control. If grave mistakes are committed in such a state, it is truly innocent. Jiang Jinrong flew into a rage. "How is this possible? It can't be. The imperial physician must have misdiagnosed." Physician Li stroked his beard and said, "This old man has served in the imperial hospital for over 40 years. Yet this is the first time someone has questioned my medical expertise." Jiang Jinrong was utterly embarrassed and immediately turned her accusations toward me. "If you have nothing to hide, why are you so nervous? Why did you dodge when the physician tried to take your pulse? I hid because, as I spoke, I rolled up my sleeve, revealing bruises and red marks left from intimate moments all over my arm. I glanced at everyone present, my tone innocent. I was afraid the imperial physician would discover these marks during the pulse diagnosis, which would tarnish the prince's reputation and be unbecoming of a noble lady's dignity. I glanced at Jiang Jinrong and her three friends with a provocative look. Don't you think so? These marks included both bite marks and bruises, all masterpieces of Gu Jiuzhao's loss of control. Gu Jiuzhao looked rather ashamed. He raised his hand to shield me in his embrace, pulled down my sleeve, and then unfastened his own outer robe to cover me completely. I was completely enveloped in his outer robe, breathing in the faint sandalwood scent of Gu Jiuzhao. The group that had been the most vocal earlier panicked. She really was innocent. Then who was the one who drugged the drink? Could there be an assassin at the banquet? I think I just saw Jinrong offering wine to the prince and the real young lady. Jiang Jinrong was already in disarray when Jiang Haoyu stepped forward and said, Even if Jiang Jinhe was also drugged, it could be that she threw herself into the game for the glory of the Qin Palace, taking a dangerous gamble. I gave Jiang Haoyu a cold look. Truly my own elder brother, he had guessed all my thoughts. I had indeed taken the drug as well, but only after luring Gu Jiuzhao into bed. The drug Jiang Jinrong gave me was the most potent aphrodisiac. In my previous life, when I married the scholar, I accidentally fell from the bridal sedan chair, injuring my palm and drawing blood. The doctor who treated my wound bandaged it and said the smell of my blood was unusual, asking if I had taken some strong aphrodisiac for the wedding night. This drug has a vulgar name, Mandarin duck match. Originally used in folk practices to breed livestock used on humans, its effects are too intense and toxic. Once taken, regardless of gender or status, it can force a pair to mate. Matching Mandarin ducks is, to be precise, a type of aphrodisiac poison. If it remains in the human body, it would take at least 10 days to half a month to be completely expelled. The barefoot doctor kindly reminded me, when the drug takes effect, the blood of the affected person becomes toxic. So, when Gu Jiuzhao was under the influence of the drug, I clung to his neck and bit him hard, drawing blood. To avoid appearing deliberate, I also broke the skin on other parts of his body. I sucked the blood from his body as if drinking poison. At that moment, I was like a demon from hell, clinging to a noble deity, vilely sucking his blood in the name of salvation. Those who have died once will stop at nothing to survive. Midway through this carnal union, my love poison also began to take effect. By the time Gu Jiuzhao was satisfied, the aphrodisiac in my body was still raging. Though I could restrain it, the pulse condition was easily confused, making the imperial physician believe that both Gu Jiuzhao and I had been drugged simultaneously, with me suffering more severely. Thus, I became the perfect victim. Facing Jiang Haoyu's accusations now, I tearfully countered with a question. Are you saying that in order to cling to the royal family, I would willingly sacrifice my purity and risk my life by poisoning myself with a heavy dose of aphrodisiac poison? Does such greed and foolishness truly exist in this world? Or is it that in your eyes, I am truly such a despicable person? Jiang Haoyu was left speechless by my words. I then turned to my parents and asked, in your eyes, am I really such a wicked person? Father, mother, I am your own flesh and blood, the daughter who shares the same blood as you. When Jiang Jinrong slandered me, wasn't he also slandering everyone in the Jiang family? The erudite prime minister, questioned by me, shamefully lowered his eyes, while the dignified matriarch's gaze toward me was instantly filled with guilt. No one in the room dared to speak further, and an unusual silence fell. At this moment, I walked over to Gu Jiuzhao's side. Do you still remember what I said, my lord? You and I both drank the wine offered by Jiang Jinrong. Jiang Jinrong, standing nearby, suddenly turned deathly pale. The wine I offered was not poisoned. She forced herself to appear calm. Drugging someone doesn't necessarily require spiking their drink these days. It could be on the utensils too. I told Gu Jiuzhao, Your Highness, just have someone bring the wine pot and cup she used when toasting, and we'll know the truth with a simple check. Jiang Jinrong visibly panicked, pleadingly asking Gu Jiuzhao, Your Highness, do you doubt me? We've known each other for years, surely you understand my character. Gu Jiuzhao said solemnly, Jinrong, as for your character, I indeed need to reconsider it further. Jiang Jinrong's expression stiffened, her shoulders slumping. If Jiang Haoyu hadn't supported her, she would have collapsed to the ground by now. Even if the trick with the cup is discovered, she wasn't the only one who handled that set of wine vessels during the coming-of-age ceremony. there's no guarantee the blame can be pinned solely on her. She took a deep breath and steadied herself. The innocent need not fear investigation. I welcome His Highness's scrutiny. As soon as she finished speaking, a scholar-dressed man emerged from the crowd. I want to report. The crowd parted to make way for him, revealing a scholar dressed in plain cloth, escorting a man whose attire was similar to his own. The man had his hands bound and appeared to have been struck twice, forced to kneel before the crowd as he shouted, "Injustice, Scholar Zhang is slandering me." My pupils constricted violently. The man kneeling before me, crying out his innocence, was none other than Duan Yuan, the scholar I had married in my past life. In that past life, he had ambushed me by the rockery, taking advantage of my vulnerability, and later insisted that I had seduced him of my own volition. I was disgraced and forced to marry into the Duan family of Song Yang. After marriage, Duan Yuan indulged in drinking, gambling, and whoring. Exploiting me to the bone in every possible way, he drove me to despair, so I smashed a vase over his head, sending him bleeding to meet the king of hell. He died, but the filthy disease he gave me continues to torment me, though time has reversed now, and everything starts anew. I had long anticipated his arrival, yet upon actually seeing this person, I couldn't help but feel a chilling phantom pain throughout my body. Gu Jiuzhao noticed my suddenly ragged breathing, thinking I was frightened, and pulled me into his embrace, a thoroughly protective gesture. "Your Highness, Prime Minister, I wish to report Duan Yuan for attempted misconduct." The scholar Zhang Wenxuan was originally the one being escorted. With the imperial examinations approaching, the outer courtyard of the Prime Minister's residence had taken in many scholars for lodging and study. These individuals were all promising talents selected by the Prime Minister's household. Even if just 2 or 3 of them successfully entered officialdom, they would become valuable allies for the Prime Minister's faction in the imperial court. These scholars hailed from all corners of the land. Given the strict separation between men and women and the hierarchical distinctions, on occasions like the coming-of-age ceremony for the Prime Minister's daughter, these lodging scholars were not permitted to attend the banquet, nor could they venture uninvited into the inner courtyards. Zhang Wenxuan held Duan Yuan down and exposed him to Prince Qin. Early this morning, Duan Yuan sneaked suspiciously into the inner courtyard garden. The inner courtyard is where the young ladies and masters reside. Fearing he might disturb the nobles, I followed him and indeed saw him hiding furtively among the rockeries. Later, when Miss Jinhe stumbled into the inner courtyard, Duan Yuan emerged directly from the rockery. Searching all around, he lingered near various side rooms, pushing open doors one by one as if looking for someone. A chill ran down my spine. If it weren't for Gu Jiuzhao, if I had truly been drugged, even if I had hidden in the side room, Duan Yuan would have found and devoured me completely. The front hall is hosting the coming-of-age ceremony for the Prime Minister's daughter. The Prime Minister has shown me great kindness, and I could not let Duan Yuan ruin the ceremony. That's why I apprehended him during his resistance. I even found a drugged handkerchief on him. Zhang Wenxuan handed over a thick handkerchief. Imperial physician Li took it, examined it carefully, and after a brief sniff, immediately pulled it away. This handkerchief is also laced with aphrodisiac. This scholar clearly intended to harm Miss Jinhe. Everyone was shocked. I pretended to be frightened and shrank into Gu Jiuzhao's arms. Gu Jiuzhao was furious and kicked Duan Yuan to the ground. "How dare you? Who ordered you to commit such despicable acts in the Prime Minister's residence?" Seeing the situation exposed, Duan Yuan immediately looked at Jiang Jinrong, who panicked. "Why are you looking at me?" Duan Yuan's eyes darted around slyly. "In my past life, I was married to him for 3 years. I know him well, stupid and wicked to the core." At this point, he would definitely betray Jiang Jinrong as the mastermind to save his own skin. I don't even need to coax a confession, just wait for him to open his mouth. Duan Yuan was indeed staring intently at Jiang Jinrong, whose face had turned deathly pale as she desperately tried to intimidate him with her gaze. But a petty man like Duan Yuan is the hardest to control in life-or-death situations. True to form, he ignored Jiang Jinrong's warning and chose self-preservation. The only one who dared order me to do such a thing was of course Jiang. "Her Majesty the Empress has arrived." He hadn't finished speaking when he was abruptly interrupted by a loud shout from a eunuch outside. My clenched fist weakly loosened, just a little bit more. Jiang Jinrong's heart nearly leapt to his throat, then suddenly dropped back down. The Empress had always been very fond of Jiang Jinrong. Before Jiang Jinrong was exposed as a fake heiress, she was still a noble and pure-blooded young lady meticulously groomed by the Prime Minister's residence. The crown prince needed the support of the prime minister's residence, and the empress had repeatedly hinted that Jiang Jinrong was her favored candidate for crown princess. Jiang Jinrong touched a jade filigree bracelet on her right wrist, a treasure previously bestowed upon her by the empress. Now, even though she was a fake heiress, Jiang Jinhe was suspected of seducing the imperial prince, the queen, having witnessed too much palace intrigue. Was naturally suspicious and overthinking. She cherished the Prince of Qin as dearly as her own eyes and would never allow anyone to scheme against him in matters of the bedchamber. Jiang Jinrong revealed a smug expression of one who had narrowly escaped disaster. Her Majesty the Queen was her greatest backer. The Queen's majestic procession arrived outside the side chamber, and the crowd knelt in unison to pay their respects, clad in Gu Jiuzhao's outer robe. I knelt respectfully and almost immediately sensed the Queen's gaze piercing through me. Everything left untidied on the bed bore witness to the absurdity that had just transpired. The Empress's expression turned cold. What happened here? Before Gu Jiuzhao could answer, Jiang Jinrong hastily interjected, Your Majesty, Jiang Jinhe used lowly brothel tricks to seduce Prince Qin. Empress Jiang had only Gu Jiuzhao as her sole prince. In her early years, she had been pregnant once, but consort Li caused her to miscarry. Li was originally a skinny horse raised by an official of the previous dynasty. During an incognito visit, the emperor got drunk on a pleasure boat and had a passionate night with the fawning Li. Li was granted the title of consort Li and, upon entering the palace, became arrogant due to the emperor's favor. She offended the empress, resulting in the loss of the 5-month-old princess in the empress's womb. Although consort Li had long died in the cold palace, Empress Jiang despised her kind the most. Today was the first time the empress met me, and Jiang Jinrong's words branded me as the second consort Li, completely ruining any favor I might have had with the empress. Empress Jiang's gaze at me was indeed unfriendly. Gu Jiuzhao wanted to explain on my behalf, but Empress Jiang had no patience left to listen. Without matchmakers or betrothal gifts, a secret union is nothing but unchastity. She looked at me coldly. I grant you this white silk to end your own life. I shall ensure you a dignified death. Gu Jiuzhao was shocked. Mother, Jiang Jinhe is also a victim. How can you be sure she's completely innocent? Can you truly understand a woman's heart? Don't be like your father, deceived and still counting money for her. I maintained a calm expression, but a thin layer of sweat formed on my back. My little tricks were indeed like teaching a fish to swim in front of the empress. The empress was the highest-ranking person present, and no one dared to defy her decision. My parents appeared to want to plead for me, but in the end, they didn't truly dare to speak. Just like in my past life, they wouldn't hesitate to marry me off for the sake of their reputation. As 2 matrons came to escort me away, I happened to meet Jiang Jinrong's gaze. She was like a triumphant fox, slyly waiting for me to die. The palace matron had an extremely strong grip, and with one pull, she tried to tear off the outer robe draped over me. If the robe were to fall, my wretched state would only further provoke Empress Jiang's disgust. But just as the robe was being pulled open at one corner, another pair of large hands swiftly gathered it back tightly. I looked up, and Gu Jiuzhao pulled me into his embrace, his voice resounding with conviction. If we speak of losing chastity, today your son has also lost the loyalty of a gentleman. If the Empress Dowager insists on bestowing death, why not provide an extra white silk cord and hang me as well? The Empress was shocked. My child, you, when Gu Jiuzhao stood up for me, I could even hear the resonance in his chest. Everyone present was shocked by Prince Chen's words and actions. To impose the death penalty without asking for the cause and effect, how is what the Empress Dowager is doing any different from indiscriminate slaughter? Gu Jiuzhao then swept his gaze over everyone around him. And all of you, with the Empress present to uphold justice, why is it that not a single one of you dares to speak up? As soon as he finished speaking, the guard who had gone out to investigate came in to report. Gu Jiuzhao invited the Empress to take the main seat. This matter has its reasons, and there are villains scheming behind it. Since your Majesty is here, why not listen to the evidence before making a decision? The Empress had no choice but to take her seat. The guard, holding the wine set, reporting to Her Majesty and Your Highness, there are indeed traces of poison on the wine vessel Jiang Jinrong used for the toast today. After examination by the imperial physicians, the poison was identified as the potent folk drug paired mandarin ducks, originally used in folk practices for livestock breeding. The reason for the inappropriate behavior of Your Highness and Miss Jiang today is entirely due to this substance. All eyes turned toward Jiang Jinrong. Jiang Jinrong quickly cried out in denial. someone must be framing me. These wine vessels have passed through so many hands, Your Highness, Your Majesty, I too have been set up. The Empress's earlier fury had been forcefully suppressed by Gu Jiuzhao. Now, with her rationality restored and hearing the imperial physician say that the aphrodisiac poison nearly cost Gu Jiuzhao his life, she grew stern. Jinrong, could it be that you're the thief crying stop thief, Your Majesty? I didn't. Jiang Jinrong knelt on the ground, utterly at a loss, babbling incoherently. The crowd looked at her as if she were a clown on stage. Her three aristocratic friends fell silent at this moment. I had thought Jiang Jinrong was surely doomed. At this moment, Gu Jiuzhao let out a low sigh. The truth is plain as day. Scholar Duan Yuan harbored lustful intentions toward the Prime Minister's daughter, sneaked into the inner courtyard, and drugged the wine. I abruptly looked up from his embrace as Gu Jiuzhao issued an unyielding command: drag Duan Yuan away, castrate him, then take him to be hanged. Upon hearing this, Duan Yuan immediately began cursing. I was just following orders. The mastermind is Jiang. Before he could finish speaking, the guard smashed his tongue and teeth with a club, leaving him unable to utter a single clear word. I quickly interjected, it's not that simple. The mastermind behind the scenes is Jiang Jinrong. Why pin all the blame on Duan Yuan? Gu Jiuzhao's hand on my shoulder suddenly tightened, a gesture of restraint and warning. I was taken aback, seeing him staring at the disheveled and panicked Jiang Jinrong on the ground. From today onward, Jiang Jinrong is confined to reflect on her mistakes. Without my order, she is not to take a single step out of the pavilion. I understood. Gu Jiuzhao had pinned all the blame on Duan Yuan just to protect Jiang Jinrong. For this, he didn't hesitate to destroy all the evidence I had painstakingly gathered. Then suddenly I was dragged before the Empress and forced to kneel. Mother Empress, Jiang Jinhe inadvertently helped me resolve the aphrodisiac poison. Since she is innocent, I am willing to take responsibility for her. The Emperor has long intended for the Prince of Chen's residence to form a marriage alliance with the Prime Minister's household. Since Jiang Jinhe is the true daughter of the Prime Minister's family, the marriage contract shall be fulfilled by her. The Empress was startled. Jiuzhao, what do you mean? Gu Jiuzhao tightly held my hand and declared loudly before everyone. This prince will follow all proper rites, 3 letters and 6 etiquettes, to formally and honorably marry the Prime Minister's daughter, Jiang Jinhe, as the princess consort of Qin. By doing this, Gu Jiuzhao could both preserve my reputation and eliminate the queen's intention to kill me. The crown prince needed the support of the Prime Minister's civil officials. The queen knew Jiang Jinrong was not innocent in this matter and grew disgusted with her. In the end, she relented and agreed to let Gu Jiuzhao personally request the emperor's decree for their marriage. The farce of the coming-of-age ceremony finally came to an end. After the empress returned to the palace, I overheard the conversation between Jiang Jinrong and Gu Jiuzhao in the pavilion. Jiang Jinrong was weeping like a pear blossom bathed in rain. Are you angry with me, my prince? It was I who shared mutual affection with you. How could you say today that you want Jiang Jinhe to be your princess consort? Do you know who raised Jiang Jinhe when she was left to fend for herself? Her methods are filthy, and today you've all been deceived by her. Jinrong, even now, you still dare to lie to this prince. Gu Jiuzhao held a white porcelain cup up to Jiang Jinrong's face, and her tearful expression froze. The rim and the base of the cup have been laced with poison. The imperial physician said any liquid poured into it would instantly turn into a potent aphrodisiac. Putting poison in the wine is too easily detected, so you chose to tamper with the cup instead. If I'm not mistaken, Duan Yuan was also your arrangement to enter the inner courtyard. You intended to drug Jiang Jinhe, then have Duan Yuan ruin her virtue. Thus, the Prime Minister's daughter would be you alone, and you'd be the sole candidate for the Chen princess consort. Isn't that so? The evidence was irrefutable. And Gu Jiuzhao was a clever man. He quickly saw through all of Jiang Jinrong's schemes. Your Highness, Jiang Jinrong's dark intentions were laid bare under the sun. And she felt a chill run down her spine under Gu Jiuzhao's piercing gaze. You made a red mark at the bottom of the wine cup, but it was too subtle. You even mixed up the cups and offered the poisoned wine to me as well. That's why we have this farce today, Jinrong. You even thought to use my mother's hand to take Jiang Jinhe's life. What a clever scheme of killing with a borrowed knife, Jiang Jinrong. How dare you have the audacity to use the royal family to plot a murder? No. Your Highness, Jiang Jinrong knelt in terror. I truly intended to drug Jiang Jinhe, but only because she and Duan Yuan were already secretly involved. I merely wanted to help them fulfill their wishes. Jiang Jinhe even said she wanted to elope with Duan Yuan. I was just giving them the opportunity on her coming-of-age ceremony day. Even if the truth came out, she was determined to drag me through the mud. These words, half-truths and half-lies, would sow doubt in others' minds even if they didn't fully believe them. I never thought to scheme against the prince. How would I dare? It was Jiang Jinhe. She switched the cups during the chaos. That's why you were harmed, Your Highness. She tightly clutched the hem of Gu Jiuzhao's robe. Your Highness, I have admired you for years, dreaming of becoming your lawful wife. How could I bear to harm you? All of this was caused by Jiang Jinhe. She's the one who framed you, Your Highness. Even now, you still refuse to repent. With a loud crash, Gu Jiuzhao smashed the white porcelain cup in his hand to pieces. The guards have thoroughly investigated. You were the only one who handled that set of wine vessels from start to finish. And as for Duan Yuan, a Jiang family banknote was found in his room, stained with the Qilin fragrance you've used since childhood. I would never mistake this scent. I didn't have these evidences presented directly to the Empress Mother. I even had Duan Yuan's tongue cut out, otherwise, it would have been you who was ordered to die by the Empress Mother today. Jiang Jinrong was so frightened that tears streamed down her face. Gu Jiuzhao firmly grasped Jiang Jinrong's tear-stained face. Drugging a prince is a crime punishable by extermination of the entire clan. Jiang Jinrong, I'll protect you this once today. As repayment for your years of infatuation, from this day forward, there will be no more affection between us. You dare not aspire to be the Chen princess, nor shall you target Jiang Jinhe again. By targeting her now, you are targeting this prince, my lord. Are you saying such words to break this humble wife's heart? Gu Jiuzhao sneered coldly. The wine of passion between me and Jiang Jinhe was handed to us by your own hands, Jinhe. All of this was your own choice. Gu Jiuzhao flung Jiang Jinrong's face aside and strode away, his sleeves fluttering as he stepped over the shattered porcelain shards. No matter how hysterically Jiang Jinrong wept, he never once looked back. I concealed myself behind a large tree, ensuring Gu Jiuzhao wouldn't notice me. By dusk, the Prime Minister's residence was set to carry out Duan Yuan's execution in the backyard. After all, this matter was rather disgraceful. The Prime Minister obtained Gu Jiuzhao's consent and had the person silenced directly in the backyard of the Prime Minister's residence. The execution was carried out by 2 seasoned and robust guards. I stepped forward and asked, this person tried to ruin my reputation. Could you 2 gentlemen allow me to vent my anger? The guards were from the prince's household. Today, Prince Qin had publicly declared his intention to marry me, so in their eyes, I was already the future Princess Qin, of course, but I fear dirtying the lady's hands won't be a problem. I pulled out the dagger I had prepared long ago. I'll just stab him twice, won't delay your important business. The guards thoughtfully checked the ropes binding Duan Yuan's limbs, ensuring they were tight, before allowing me to approach him. Duan Yuan's mouth and teeth had already been smashed to a pulp, but when his eyes saw me, they still gleamed with a lecherous light. He wasn't afraid when he saw me holding the knife. In my past life, when he beat me in the room, I also picked up a knife to resist, but he wasn't scared at all. He even mocked me, saying, even if my little wife holds a knife, she'll only manage to inflict some superficial wounds that don't hurt or itch. It'll only excite me more. Wrong. I gripped the dagger tightly with both hands, and with the first strike, I castrated Duan Yuan's manhood. As blood sprayed, Duan Yuan let out an inhuman scream, his entire body convulsing in spasms. The 2 guards were startled. Without changing my expression, I raised the knife and swiftly gouged out Duan Yuan's insolent eyes. The screams were endless. Yet I felt nothing but exhilaration. In my past life, this man tainted my purity, humiliated my dignity, and ruined my health. His eyes, like shadows, followed me relentlessly, trapping me in Songyang County, confining me within the Duan family's inner quarters for 3 long years, 3 whole years. I've long wanted to sever his vile roots and gouge out his eyes. I've wanted to do this for a long time. The night breeze brushed against my face, and half of the hatred pent up in my chest dissipated. I threw down the dagger and ordered the 2 guards to continue with their torture, telling them they were free to report this scene to Prince Qin. I needed to dispel Gu Jiuzhao's suspicions about me and Duan Yuan, as long as I was ruthless enough. Jiang Jinrong's psychological trap would be easy to break. The 2 guards showed a hint of awe toward me and swiftly hoisted Duan Yuan onto the gallows. I watched coldly as Duan Yuan was hanged to death. If not for Gu Jiuzhao's mercy, Jiang Jinrong should have been sent to the gallows today as well. Drugging a prince is a crime punishable by death 10 times over. the prince himself showed mercy. In the pavilion scene, Prince Chen appeared to have severed ties with Jiang Jinrong. Yet his gaze clearly revealed a mix of love and hatred. In their past life, Gu Jiuzhao and Jiang Jinrong shared an unparalleled love after marriage. Gu Jiuzhao is a man of sentiment, which is why I can use him, but his affection will also hinder my revenge. I must find a way to make Prince Chen and the entire Jiang family completely abandon Jiang Jinrong. I will completely drive out the wild dove that has occupied the nest, sending it back where it belongs. 3 days later, the imperial decree of marriage was issued in the palace. The Prince of Chen's residence soon sent betrothal gifts to the Prime Minister's residence. On the day the betrothal gifts were delivered, I met Gu Jiuzhao, who told me to simply wait peacefully for the wedding. Among the betrothal gifts was an exquisitely crafted golden hairpin bestowed by the Emperor. Your Highness, could you help me put it on? Just as Gu Jiuzhao picked up the hairpin, a maid suddenly rushed in panic. Terrible news, Miss Jinrong has hanged herself in the attic. Gu Jiuzhao's expression changed instantly. He threw down the hairpin and dashed towards Jiang Jinrong's Wufang pavilion. Father, mother, and even my elder brother all rushed over. I picked up the golden hairpin from the plate. It was supposed to be my special day, yet everyone went to care about Jiang Jinrong. When I arrived at Wufang pavilion, Jiang Jinrong was sobbing in Gu Jiuzhao's arms, pounding his chest and saying she didn't want to live anymore, that she had no face left to live, and that she should atone with her death. A white silk ribbon lay beside her, yet there wasn't even a single mark of strangulation on her neck, faking suicide. Yet not even acting convincingly. Such a clumsy performance, yet it made everyone's heart ache. The Prime Minister said, "Why must you be so desperate?" The mistress said, "Jinrong, you still have your parents. We all treat you as our own daughter. If you make mistakes, we are willing to help you correct them." Jiang Haoyu also said, "That's right, even if the sky falls, your brother will be there to hold it up for you. So this is what it feels like to have someone always having your back. In my past life, when I was disgraced, these blood relatives couldn't wait to cast me aside." Such comforting words, they never once spoke them to me. Jiang Jinrong looked at Gu Jiuzhao with tearful eyes. And Gu Jiuzhao said helplessly, "Your crime doesn't warrant death. There's no need for this. Without your highness, Jinrong would rather die than live. Your highness, Jinrong is having trouble breathing." She weakly nestled into Gu Jiuzhao's arms, and he didn't push her away, only instructing someone to summon the imperial physician. Gu Jiuzhao's gaze at me always carried the air of someone bestowing pity upon a pitiable weakling, yet when he looked at Jiang Jinrong, his eyes held an affection he couldn't bear to sever. The imperial physician came to examine her and said Jiang Jinrong was suffering from melancholy. Gu Jiuzhao then relented, allowing her to move freely within the chancellor's residence instead of confining her to the attic. My grand wedding with Gu Jiuzhao is scheduled for the 9th of next month, and the entire chancellor's residence is busy preparing for the ceremony. Flowers and festive silks were everywhere. But Jiang Jinrong only grew more sullen at the sight of them. 3 days before the grand wedding, as I was in the courtyard examining the designs for the wedding candies, Jiang Haoyu suddenly stormed toward me in a rage. "Why did you have the wedding candies delivered to Wufang Pavilion? Are you deliberately trying to upset Jinrong?" I explained innocently, "Brother, I just wanted her to taste the wedding candies too. The imperial physician said she's been brooding, so I thought sharing my joy might help her recover faster." "You still dare to speak with sarcasm. Brother has misunderstood his sister." I turned around and picked up a plate of wedding candies from the table. "Brother, taste these for your sister and see which flavor is better, so we can serve the distinguished guests on the wedding day." Jiang Haoyu raised his hand and knocked over the lacquered tray in my grasp, sending the assorted wedding candies scattering across the floor. "Who wants to be tainted by your bad luck?" With those words, he flung his sleeve and stormed off. Dyer stepped forward to pick up the candy for me, but I told her not to bother. "Go tell father and mother that my brother had a fight with me today." Though Dyer didn't understand my intentions, she still did as I asked. By noon, the entire Prime Minister's residence knew that Jiang Haoyu had quarreled with me over Jiang Jinrong. In the evening, Jiang Jinrong came to see me dressed in simple elegance, putting on the delicate airs of a sickly beauty. She said meekly and kindly, "Jinha, my elder brother argued with you today because of me. I've already scolded him for it," I lazily remarked. "You two really share a deep sibling bond. After 18 years in this family, even if we're not blood related, we're closer than real siblings." Jiang Jinrong smiled and took my hand. "It was all my fault before, wanting too much. But after this illness, I've come to understand many things. your brother is waiting for you at Yuyan Pavilion and wants to apologize to you in person. For the sake of our sibling bond, you shouldn't refuse him. I know you have some misunderstandings about me, but if I don't go, I fear I'll be labeled as disrespectful to my elder brother. You don't understand, the royal family places great importance on reputation. I can no longer marry into it. But Jinha, you mustn't disgrace the Prime Minister's household either. I hesitated, staring at her. Jiang Jinrong laughed and said, this is the Prime Minister's residence, your home. Are you afraid I'll devour you? Fine, I'll go with you to see brother. I followed Jiang Jinrong to the Jade Swallow Pavilion in the inner courtyard. The Jade Swallow Pavilion was hidden in the bamboo grove of the garden. With few people around except for the bamboo, the door of the pavilion was wide open. And a screen stood right at the entrance, dimly lit. Jiang Jinrong led me up the steps, and as soon as we reached the door, I caught a familiar, peculiar fragrance. Jinha, go in and see your brother. Jiang Jinrong urged me to enter, while she quietly retreated behind me. Just as she was about to push me from behind, I suddenly turned around with a sinister smile. Jiang Jinrong, I've seen this trick before, back in the brothel. What? The trick of luring a young girl and sending a lamb into the tiger's den. Before Jiang Jinrong could react, I struck her neck with a chop of my hand. Jiang Jinrong was knocked unconscious by my strike. I caught her body and pushed her into the Jade Swallow Pavilion. Jiang Jinrong regained consciousness as she fell to the ground, weak all over. She looked up to see Jiang Haoyu's flushed face staring at her like a beast closing in on its prey. Pei Yuanyang carried a faint, peculiar fragrance, a scent so subtle that ordinary people could hardly detect it. But I'm different. In both my past and present lives, I've been dealing with this very herb. So, when that faint, elusive fragrance wafted from the Jade Swallow Pavilion, I guessed Jiang Jinrong's intention in luring me there. I couldn't tolerate Jiang Jinrong, and she couldn't tolerate me either. With the grand wedding approaching, she wanted to use Jiang Haoyu to ruin me utterly during the ceremonial rites. Then don't blame me for giving tit for tat and fighting evil with evil. Sister, Jiang Haoyu's feelings for you go beyond sibling affection. Enjoy yourself. With that, I closed the door from the outside. Jiang Jinrong struggled desperately to escape the Jade Swallow Pavilion, but was restrained by the irrational Jiang Haoyu. I closed the door behind me but didn't lock it. Jiang Haoyu, after all, had trained in martial arts, and his strength was more than enough to restrain Jiang Jinrong. I called Dyer, who was waiting outside the bamboo grove. Go to the Prince Chen's residence and inform them that Jiang Jinrong has gone missing and might attempt suicide again. Please ask His Highness Prince Chen to come and take a look. The butterfly nodded. This servant understands, and will also inform the Prime Minister and the mistress on the way. Good butterfly, go ahead. I stood guard outside the door for half an hour, listening to Jiang Jinrong's cries for the same duration. It wasn't until someone hurriedly approached this direction that I hid in the bamboo grove. My parents and Gu Jiuzhao arrived almost simultaneously, and I also emerged from the bamboo grove, pretending to have just found this place. Your Highness, have you found my sister yet? As soon as I finished speaking, an ambiguous female voice suddenly came from within the Jade Swallow Pavilion. The mistress immediately changed her expression. She had guessed something and initially intended to cover it up. Your Highness, Jinrong should be resting in the Jade Swallow Pavilion. Matters of the inner household, perhaps it would be best to leave them to me. Her words were abruptly cut off by Jiang Haoyu's low growl. The matriarch and the Prime Minister instantly paled. Both rushed forward and pushed open the door, only to see their son on the bed, utterly inseparable from their adopted daughter, lost to the world. Ah! The Prime Minister let out a furious cry of despair. The mistress rushed forward to pull Jiang Haoyu away, but he remained deeply engrossed. Trembling with rage, the mistress exclaimed, Jiang Jinrong, how dare you lure my son into such acts? Have you no gratitude for our years of raising you? Jiang Jinrong hastily stood up to explain, but suddenly turned deathly pale, for she saw Gu Jiuzhao standing at the doorway, his gaze icy and fixed on the scene. Your Highness, no, Your Highness, please listen to my explanation. She pushed Jiang Haoyu away with all her might, struggling to get off the bed, but her legs gave way and she nearly fell. Gu Jiuzhao's face was ashen, the air around him so tense it could wring out water. He turned away coldly, pausing abruptly as he stepped outside. I followed him out and asked with concern, Your Highness, my sister must have acted unintentionally, or perhaps she was drunk and made a mistake, Your Highness. Gu Jiuzhao suddenly clutched his chest and violently spat out a mouthful of blood. This was a sign of rage affecting the heart. Now, he should be completely despaired and heartbroken towards Jiang Jinrong. By the time I escorted Gu Juzha back to the Prince Chen's residence and returned to the Prime Minister's mansion, the night had already grown deep. Upon entering the main hall, under the dim yellow light, Jiang Jinrong and Jiang Haoyu were seen kneeling before the two family elders. It appeared that a round of questioning had already taken place. The effects of the drug on Jiang Haoyu had worn off, and he had regained much of his sobriety, now continuously pleading his innocence. "Father, mother, your son was drugged. This is not your son's fault." The faces of the Prime Minister and his wife were livid, with the family physician standing nearby. This incident happened twice, and the Prime Minister's residence, having prior experience, had already arranged for someone to check the pulse. Jiang Haoyu was drugged, but Jiang Jinrong was not. Who seduced whom into wrongdoing is clear at a glance. As soon as I appeared, Jiang Jinrong immediately lunged at me. "It's you, Jiang Jinhe, how vicious, how malicious, you actually made me," she spoke, then burst into tears of grievance, completely forgetting that if I didn't fight back, the grave accusation of sibling incest would fall on me today. "I don't know what you're talking about, sister. Brother was drugged, and you're the only one who has that medicine, with a history of such acts. What's this about the thief crying stop thief?" I flicked Jiang Jinrong's hand away. "If I'm not mistaken, sister, seeing that you can't marry Prince Chen and fearing rejection by the Prime Minister's household, you're willing to sacrifice all dignity just to secure a place as the Prime Minister's daughter-in-law, isn't that right, you?" Jiang Jinrong was so furious at my words that steam seemed to rise from her head. Jiang Haoyu sprang up from the ground and shoved me forcefully. "You vile woman, ever since you returned, our home has been in chaos. Clearly, you're the one framing us." Staggered by his push, I steadied myself and simply looked at the Prime Minister and the matriarch, saying, "Father, mother, you see how protective brother is of sister Jinrong, since they're not related by blood anyway. Why not let them be together and make sister Jinrong my sister-in-law?" The Prime Minister's expression grew even more grim and terrifying. Jiang Haoyu was the only male heir of the Prime Minister's household, and moreover, the legitimate son, for his marriage. The Prime Minister had long favored the daughter of the Marquis of Dingen, or at the very least, a legitimate daughter from a ducal family. Only such a well-matched union could strengthen alliances and solidify the Jiang family's position in the imperial court. The marriages of aristocratic families have always been games of interest and power. The Prime Minister, having weathered the ups and downs of the court for many years, had reached an age where he hoped to climb one more step up the ladder through his children's marriages. Now, all his plans were ruined by an adopted daughter, and he was utterly heartbroken. Jiang Jinrong, reminded by me, also realized that marrying Jiang Haoyu was her only viable path forward. She had originally hoped to usurp my position, or at the very least, become a favored concubine in the prince's household. But Prince Chen witnessed that scene today and must have already grown disgusted with her, after that commotion at her coming-of-age ceremony. Her reputation was in tatters. No respectable young man from a noble family would be willing to marry her now. "Father, mother, since things have come to this, I'm willing to marry Brother Haoyu," she cried while acting coquettishly. They had no idea that the Chancellor and his wife were already on the verge of furious breakdown. Jiang Haoyu was both shocked and delighted to hear Jiang Jinrong's words, and he quickly declared, "Father, mother, why don't I just marry Jinrong, after all? She's an adopted daughter, raised under your eyes since childhood, you know her inside out. Wouldn't such a daughter-in-law put your minds at ease?" "Outrageous, you're utterly outrageous." The Prime Minister was furious. The mistress could bear it no longer. She suddenly rose from her seat and delivered a resounding slap across Jiang Jinrong's face. Jiang Jinrong was stunned by the blow. "From childhood till now, I have never laid a hand on you. Not even when I learned you were not my own flesh and blood. I couldn't bring myself to blame you. Jiang Jinrong, you were born to a prostitute, yet you've enjoyed 18 years of luxury and pampering in my Prime Minister's residence. My husband and I painstakingly raised you to be a noble lady, planned your future, and treated you even more dearly than our own daughter. And how have you repaid us? At your coming-of-age ceremony, you schemed against the Crown Prince, gambling with the lives of the entire Jiang clan. Now you're plotting against your foster brother. Do you want to ruin my son's future and destroy the Jiang family's century of effort? You ungrateful viper, I should never have been soft-hearted back then. I should have thrown you out of the house." I watched this mother-daughter confrontation coldly, feeling nothing but scorn. When they recognized me, they couldn't bear to drive Jiang Jinrong away. At the coming-of-age ceremony, They couldn't bear to hold Jiang Jinrong accountable for her major mistake. Now that Jiang Jinrong has harmed their precious legitimate son and shaken the foundation of the Jiang family, the parents are finally panicking. So you see, the rod must strike where it truly hurts, otherwise, no one will ever truly understand your suffering. Upon hearing his mother's intention to expel Jiang Jinrong, Jiang Haoyu immediately defended her. If you're going to drive Jinrong away, then drive me out too. The Prime Minister, his chest heaving with anger, kicked Jiang Haoyu fiercely, then suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood and collapsed backward. Another one felled by rage. The Jiang residence was thrown into chaos. In the cold early morning breeze, Jiang Haoyu and Jiang Jinrong were made to kneel in punishment in the courtyard. A single dim light flickered in the room as I took the warm bowl of medicine and approached the Prime Minister's bedside. "Father, drink your medicine." The imperial physician said your condition is due to sudden emotional distress, just like Prince Chen's symptoms. This medicine will help you recover. The usually strong-willed Prime Minister now looked weary and aged. I carefully fed him the medicine and wiped the traces from the corners of his mouth. This scene did not escape the notice of the matriarch. Suddenly, the Prime Minister grasped my hand tightly, his eyes brimming with tears. "Here, your father was wrong. I shouldn't have favored an outsider and neglected my own flesh and blood. Such a good daughter." The mistress also stepped forward, wiping her tears, and said, "It's all our fault as parents. We were blinded by foolishness and actually favored such an ungrateful wretch." They held my hands, sincerely repenting, apologizing, and begging for my forgiveness, so they did know how they had treated me unfairly, neglected me, and been harsh to me before. They weren't truly remorseful. They just saw that Jiang Haoyu was about to be ruined and Jiang Jinrong was so despicable. All the family's hopes now rest solely on me, their daughter who is soon to be a royal consort. "Father, mother, your words shame me. I understand your hardships and difficulties, and I dare not harbor any resentment." I had learned to speak such considerate words, which only made the couple feel more ashamed. The matriarch shook her head in confusion. "Even Prince Chen has witnessed this matter. How can we possibly resolve it?" The chancellor pressed his temples and said, "In any case, Jiang Jinrong absolutely cannot stay in the chancellor's residence any longer. Perhaps you should listen to your daughter's advice." I seized the moment to speak. Brother developed feelings for Jiang Jinrong because they grew up together and were too close. All we need to do is separate the two of them. Tell me more in detail. Here. My humble opinion is to have His Highness the Prince transfer my brother to the border for 2 years of tempering, allowing him to reflect on his mistakes while also making contributions. Keeping him solely in the golden nest of the imperial city would not benefit his future prospects. Reasonable. And what about Jiang Jinrong? The Prime Minister seemed unwilling to let her keep the Jiang surname and corrected himself. How should we deal with that adopted daughter? Sister Jinrong has been in the imperial city for many years and has gained some reputation. If the Prime Minister's residence directly expels her, it might invite criticism and censure. I smiled and said, "How about arranging a marriage for her and sending her far away to wed? This way, our Prime Minister's household would have done our utmost with benevolence and duty." The Prime Minister looked at me with admiration in his eyes. "Here is truly my own daughter. Adept at strategizing and maneuvering, she has the same brilliance I had in my youth." The matriarch said proudly, "The daughter I bore for you could never be anything less than exceptional." In an instant, they seemed to have grown exceedingly affectionate toward me. "But where can we arrange a marriage in such a short time?" I smiled and said, "That scholar Zhang Wenxuan, who reported Duan Yuan the other day, though his family is poor, he's quite upright and honest." But Zhang Wenxuan doesn't even have an official title. The mistress instinctively worried that Jiang Jinrong might not fare well if married to him. But she quickly hardened her heart. Forget it, she was born lowly to begin with. Marrying Zhang Wenxuan would already be a step up for her. Why should I bother planning for her? With this matter settled, I attended to my parents as they retired for the night. Early the next morning, Jiang Haoyu and Jiang Jinrong were placed under separate house arrest. Zhang Wenxuan, having received the good news of the betrothal, came specially to thank me. The young lady truly keeps her word. On the day I was reborn, time was pressing, and I only managed to bribe Zhang Wenxuan, who was loitering in the inner courtyard. That day, I sent you to ambush Duan Yuan by the rockery. You did well. I promised you that afterward I would arrange a good marriage for you as a reward. Are you satisfied with Jiang Jinrong being betrothed to you?" Zhang Wenxuan bowed with a salute. "I'm more than satisfied. Though she's a fake heiress, she was still meticulously raised by the Prime Minister's household. Consider this humble scholar reaching above his station. Zhang Wenchuan had failed the imperial examinations for years. His entry into the prime minister's residence to study was entirely due to his sycophantic flattery. He was slightly smarter than Duan Yuan, but in terms of family background, talent, and character, he was merely a second Duan Yuan. In my previous life, Jiang Jinrong deliberately chose a social climber to tarnish my reputation. Now, I'm returning the favor in kind. After arranging everything at home, I brought some homemade snacks to the Prince Chen's residence. Gu Zhuzhao was truly heartbroken, lying on the bed with his eyes closed, resting, seeing me enter. He propped himself up and silently watched as I ladled the white fungus soup into a bowl. I fed him a spoonful, and he asked in return, "Did you forget to add sugar?" I quickly took a taste myself. "My apologies, Your Highness, I forgot the sugar again." He quipped, "Don't you young girls just love sweets? How could you forget to add sugar? When I was little and lived with my foster mother, she wouldn't let me touch the sugar at home, saying it was too expensive and I wasn't worthy of it." I casually brought up this past memory, inadvertently revealing both wrists. Gu Zhuzhao indeed noticed an old scar on my arm. He grabbed my wrist and asked intently, "Back then, I was too lost in passion to notice such an old scar on you. Who hurt you?" I hesitated. "My lord, please don't ask. I fear speaking of it would only soil your ears." "Speak," he commanded as if giving an order, and only then did I relent and say, "That day, my sister declared in front of everyone that I was raised by a prostitute." She wasn't slandering me. My foster mother, Jiang Jinrong's birth mother, was indeed a dancing girl from a brothel. Back then, she became pregnant with a client's child and couldn't find the father. Using her connections as the top courtesan, she learned that the prime minister's wife would be going up the mountain that day, so she paid a group of men to disguise themselves as bandits and forced the pregnant prime minister's wife into a dilapidated temple. In that temple, both women gave birth. My foster mother switched the babies, securing a bright future for her own child. While I was left to follow her and scrape by in life, I traced the scar with my fingers. When I was 8 years old, she was assaulted by a customer. I rushed in to protect her and got my arm sliced by flying shards from a shattered vase. The wound was deep. Afterward, my foster mother scolded me, saying my arm had become ugly and I'd never dance beautifully again. Later, she grew tired of my timidity and sent me to perform dances on the streets for money. I still remember that day, clumsily dancing in the street when the chancellor's daughter happened to pass by on an outing. Her carriage was so magnificent, adorned with feathered wind chimes, and as it passed, the scent of orchids lingered in the air. I stole a glance at the chancellor's daughter inside the carriage. She wore glass flowers in her hair, a golden gauze dress with kink hues, and was playing with a fluffy rabbit in her hands. I was utterly mesmerized. The nanny covered my eyes and sternly warned me, saying she was a noble young lady, not someone of my kind to peek at. She forbade me even to envy, because I would never deserve such a life. Yet, within a few days, she pointed at the towering prime minister's residence and said if I danced well enough, I could enter and perform for that very noble young lady, earning some reward. Later, I realized she only missed her own daughter and wanted to force me to perfect my dancing, so she could take me into the prime minister's residence to see her real daughter. And the condition for entering the prime minister's residence was that she wanted me to scar my own face. I paused at this point and asked with a smile, "Your Highness, have you never seen me dance before?" I rose from the bed, gracefully extending my arms, revealing those scarred with old wounds, and began to twirl in a dance. But before I could complete more than a couple of steps, Gu Zhuzhao embraced me from behind. "I'm sorry, Jean." He nestled against my shoulder and murmured an apology. "I shouldn't have let those people use your past pain to humiliate you that day. Jiang Jinrong stole your life. I shouldn't have allowed her to hurt you again." My throat tightened, and I said softly, "I'm fine. Look, the bitterness has passed, and sweetness has come. In truth, my feelings for the prince are no less than Jiang Jinrong's." I whisper softly, "Do you know how I was recognized and brought back to the prime minister's residence? It was when you purged the corruption family in court. And the brothel where my foster mother worked happened to be the Shen family's hideout for disposing of stolen goods. That day, when the officers investigated the brothel, the leader was my mother's brother, the chief of the Dali temple. My uncle noticed that I bore a striking resemblance to my mother when she was young, which aroused his suspicion. He followed the clues and eventually recognized me, bringing me back to the prime minister's residence. I am truly grateful to His Highness Prince Qin in my heart." Only then did Gu Zhuzhao learn of this matter. He looked at me with surprise and delight. "So we were fated from the beginning. We almost missed each other." He cupped my face and gently kissed me. A kiss filled with heartache and remorse. When a man begins to feel heartache for you and remorse toward you, it won't be long before he falls in love with you. I didn't tell Gu Jiao that when the brothel was in chaos, the madam, fearing I might be seen by the officers, tried to stop me. At that moment, all I wanted was to escape her control as quickly as possible, so when she held me tightly in her arms, in a moment of madness, I pulled the hairpin from her head and stabbed it into the back of her skull. Then, in a panic, I fled and ran straight into the arms of the official handling the case. He was utterly shocked by my appearance. Later, I learned that the minister of the Court of Judicial Review was my birth mother's brother. At 17, I was the spitting image of my birth mother in her youth. The efficiency of the Chief Justice of the Dali Temple in handling cases was extremely high, and soon it was confirmed that I was the true daughter of the Prime Minister's household. The true daughter possessed many things, for instance, the marriage contract with the Prince of Chen's residence, which had been arranged since my birth. I held Gu Jiao tightly in my arms, embracing not just the man I had long admired, but also my bright future. I was merely reclaiming what rightfully belonged to me. After that day, Gu Jiao never inquired about Jiang Jinrong again. 2 days before the wedding, Jiang Haoyu was abruptly transferred to the eastern border by the Qin Palace and ordered to depart immediately. Military orders are hard to defy. At the break of dawn, under the watchful eyes of his parents, Jiang Haoyu reluctantly joined the army. The day before the wedding, Jiang Jinrong learned that a marriage had been arranged for her. The maid deliberately left her words half-spoken, leading Jiang Jinrong to mistakenly believe she was to marry Jiang Haoyu. When I entered the attic, she was excitedly trying on the wedding dress and crown that had been delivered. These wedding dresses and jewelry are simply too perfunctory. Jiang Haoyu is the sole heir of the Prime Minister, and I am to be the mistress of the Jiang family. Even if time is pressing, how dare you treat me with such neglect? She scolded the maid who had brought the items, but as she turned around, she saw me. The maid had already been dismissed by me. Only the two of us remained in the room, standing in opposition under the glow of the setting sun. Jiang Jinrong immediately recognized me and set down the jewelry. Jiang Jinhe, how dare you show your face here? I smiled and retorted, why wouldn't I dare? It's not me who's guilty of wrongdoing. You're the one who drugged Jiang Haoyu, aren't you? Jiang Jinrong's eye twitched, her gaze turning venomous. I exposed her scheme from that day. You deliberately had him provoke me, then used the pretext of an apology to lure me over. Jiang Haoyu was drugged and lost his senses, and he's incredibly strong. Once I entered that room, you would have locked the door from the outside. Then, when the time was right, you would have alerted father, mother, and Prince Qin, making me the sinner who committed incest with my own brother. Not only would father and mother despise me, but the marriage arrangement with Prince Chen's household would also be ruined. Sister, what a vicious mind you have. I mockingly looked her up and down. Do you know why I could see through your scheme so easily? Because I've witnessed such tricks countless times in the brothel since I was old enough to remember. You grew up in the Prime Minister's residence, yet you've mastered these despicable tactics without being taught. Truly the daughter of a prostitute, flowing with the same vile blood. How dare you humiliate me? Jiang Jinrong was enraged by my provocation and raised her hand to strike me. I intercepted her wrist and slapped her back instead. Jiang Jinrong, remember this. Everything I've done to you is simply giving you a taste of your own medicine. Jiang Jinrong's face was knocked sideways by my slap. Humiliated, her eyes reddened as she gritted her teeth and said, so what if you're gloating now? From now on in this house, you'll have to call me sister-in-law and respect me as your elder. I looked at the person before me as if they were a fool, then suddenly covered my mouth and burst into laughter. What are you laughing at? Jiang Jinrong grew uneasy and flustered at the sound of my laughter. I patted her shoulder meaningfully without saying a word. The grand astrologer had chosen an impeccable auspicious date for Prince Chen's wedding. Jiang Jinrong's wedding was also scheduled to coincide with this propitious day. When she got married, neither the Prime Minister nor the mistress showed up, and only 2 maids perfunctorily applied her makeup, until she boarded the bridal sedan. Jiang Jinrong finally couldn't help but look around and ask, where is Jiang Haoyu? Today is our wedding day. Why hasn't he shown up? Suddenly, a groom appeared in her line of sight. My dear, were you looking for me? Zhang Wenxuan, why is it you? Jiang Jinrong recognized this scholar who was lodging a complaint. My lady, you jest. If it's not me, then who could it be? Zhang Wenxuan cheerfully took Jiang Jinrong's hand and sniffed it. My lady, you smell so good, how dare you? Jiang Jinrong pulled her hand away and angrily slapped Zhang Wenxuan. Today is my wedding day. Aren't you afraid Jiang Haoyu will banish you from the Prime Minister's residence? You mean the eldest young master, he enlisted in the army long ago. Departed the day before yesterday, and is already at the border by now. Jiang Jinrong was incredulous. You're lying. If he's not here, who am I marrying? Zhang Wenxuan froze for a moment, rubbing his hands together. Does my lady not know yet? The man you're marrying today is me. The Prime Minister has long since betrothed you to me. Tonight shall be our wedding night. Jiang Jinrong's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. My parents would never abandon me like this. And Jiang Haoyu wouldn't dare betray me like this. My dear wife, your reputation is already ruined. No one in the Prime Minister's estate is willing to protect you anymore. Your only destiny now is to become Zhang Wenxuan's wife. No, no. I demand to see the Prime Minister. I demand to see the mistress. Jiang Jinrong wanted to flee to the front hall but was blocked by the wedding procession, the leading matron said. The front hall is for the wedding of Prince Chen and Princess Chen. You, an outsider, don't even think of ruining the Prime Minister's grand occasion. An outsider. I am the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's household, the matron sneered. The Prime Minister's household has only one true daughter, and that is Jiang Jinhe. You're just a counterfeit that was swapped in. The Prime Minister can no longer tolerate you. You're no different from an outsider. If you know what's good for you, leave the Prime Minister's residence in the bridal sedan. Otherwise, don't blame us for driving you out and humiliating you. Jiang Jinrong belatedly realized that she had been completely abandoned by the Prime Minister and his wife. She guessed that her actions against Jiang Haoyu this time had brought disaster. But in the past, even when she made serious mistakes, her parents would at most ignore her for a day before coming to comfort her. Why was this time different? Why was it different? The old matron cut straight to the point. Having occupied the position of a noble lady for so long, have you forgotten you're just a wild dove usurping another's nest? Drag her onto the bridal sedan chair immediately. Don't miss the auspicious hour. The servants half-carried Jiang Jinrong onto the sedan chair. As she struggled and resisted, her phoenix crown became disheveled. Hearing the lively music from the front hall, she screamed hysterically, "This can't be happening. I'm the cherished daughter of the Prime Minister's household. I'm the beloved of Prince Chen. At the very least, I should marry the Prime Minister's legitimate son. How dare you treat me like this? Father, mother, your daughter is so wronged. How could you be so cruel? How could you be so cruel?" the matron said impatiently. Gag her mouth. Zhang Wenxuan personally took a square cloth, pinched Jiang Jinrong's chin, and gagged her mouth. He said with a smile, "Don't delude yourself with thoughts of being the Prime Minister's daughter or the Princess of Qin anymore. Those belong to someone else now." He patted Jiang Jinrong's cheek. "You're the perfect match for me." In the end, Jiang Jinrong was trussed up and stuffed into a cramped bridal sedan chair. The small wedding procession of just over a dozen people half-heartedly played their instruments as they passed the Prime Minister's residence. Jiang Jinrong desperately craned her neck to look out. The grand entrance of the Prime Minister's mansion was adorned with lanterns and decorations, bustling with guests and filled with laughter. Amidst the crowd's cheers, Prince Chen carefully lifted the Prime Minister's daughter, adorned in gold and jade, refusing to let his bride take a single step as he carried her directly onto the 6-horse-drawn, canopied wedding carriage. The 10-mile bridal procession filled the city with fragrance and joy. Jiang Jinrong wept with envy. This was the wedding she had always dreamed of, yet now, she could only sit in a cramped, shabby bridal sedan, marrying a poor scholar with no future prospects. She refused to accept this fate. She lunged and tumbled out of the sedan, hoping to catch Prince Chen's attention, but instead hit the ground headfirst, leaving her forehead bloodied and battered. The Prince of Chen never once glanced in her direction. In the first year of my marriage into the Prince of Chen's household, I successfully gave birth to a young heir. During the full moon celebration of the heir, Jiang Jinrong's 3 former close friends each brought generous gifts to offer their congratulations. The county princess who once mocked me now praised me for maintaining my youthful appearance. The young lord who humiliated me begged me to put in a good word for him before Prince Chen. The young marquis who embarrassed me at the Jade Tower that day privately offered me tea to apologize. I sat with them at the same table, occupying the seat of honor while the 3 of them took the secondary seats, each forcing smiles. Not daring to let the atmosphere grow cold, I casually asked, "Has anyone heard any news of Jiang Jinrong lately?" The county princess played dumb. Jiang Jinrong. "I've already forgotten there was such a person," the young duke said with an ingratiating smile. "If you ask me, a counterfeit is a counterfeit, and a fake is a fake. The world only remembers the true pearl. Who would bother remembering a fake fisheye?" The young marquis said guiltily. Back then, she incited us to do many absurd things. Please don't take it to heart, Princess Chen. I took a sip of tea and said lazily, I thought you, her former close friends, would still think of her. Who said we were close friends with her? Your Highness must be joking with us, ha ha ha. Sitting in the host's seat, I watched these three people who had once bullied me force uneasy smiles for over an hour, far more entertaining than any play. The following year, Gu Jiuzhao was named Crown Prince, and I became the mistress of the Eastern Palace. This aligns perfectly with the trajectory of my past life. After becoming the Crown Princess, my parents treated me with even greater affection. The Prime Minister would deliberately approach the Crown Prince during morning court sessions to inquire about me with a word or two. The mistress often brewed nourishing soups and tonics for me, urging me to recuperate well after childbirth. Wishing for many children and abundant blessings, Jiang Haoyu returned from the border with military honors. After 2 years of harsh training on the brutal frontier, my dear brother had indeed matured and become more composed. Also earning a significant military achievement in the army, being awarded the rank of third-class cavalry general. After achieving fame and success, Jiang Haoyu came to the Eastern Palace to see me, apologizing for the harm he had caused me 2 years ago. I generously replied, we are blood relatives, I won't dwell on these past events, and you should also look ahead, striving to achieve even greater military honors soon. Jiang Haoyu felt deeply ashamed and took the initiative to tell me. On my triumphant return journey, I passed by Songyang County and saw Jiang Jinrong. Oh, she begged me to take her back to the capital, but I refused. She looked disheveled and seemed to be living a difficult life. If you feel sorry for her, brother, why didn't you bring her back? You jest, my lady. Although she is reluctant to part with the Jiang surname, she is no longer a member of the Jiang family. Moreover, she is already married to another man. Besides, back then, when I committed such an absurd act, it was she who drugged me. I have long since come to my senses. Then why are you telling me this, brother, princess, sister? Could you find me a suitable match from a family of equal status to marry? Once a person has tasted the flavor of power, they will no longer be entangled by mere love and affection. Jiang Haoyu's future looked bright, and naturally, he began to consider using marriage as a means to climb even higher. Unfortunately, his earlier reckless behavior had left him with a poor reputation among the noble ladies of the imperial capital. After more than a year of careful planning, the Prime Minister's family finally found a suitable match for Jiang Haoyu, the legitimate daughter of a third-rank civil official. When it came to the wedding, the Prime Minister's family showed utmost sincerity, humbling themselves to secure a virtuous wife for Jiang Haoyu. In the winter of the 3rd year, a woman was making a scene outside the Eastern Palace gate, demanding to see the Crown Prince. At that time, Gu Jiuzhao was having the Dali Temple thoroughly investigate long-standing wrongful cases. Thinking it might be a victim seeking justice at the Crown Prince's outer residence, he took me out to meet her. The woman was hunched over, her exposed skin covered in red patches, with a scar on her forehead. Gu Jiuzhao didn't even recognize her at first glance, until the woman's eyes gleamed as she called out, Your Highness, it's me, I'm Jinrong. Gu Jiuzhao looked as if he had swallowed a fly, certain that this wasn't a victim coming for help. He took my hand and said gently, Where was just fussing and asking for his father to hold him. I'll go comfort the child first. Go ahead, I'll handle this matter. After 3 years of marriage, Gu Jiuzhao had come to understand my temperament well. Without asking further, he simply adjusted the fox fur cloak around my shoulders. Don't catch a cold. And don't waste too much thought on such people. I squeezed his hand in return. I understand. Gu Jiuzhao lingered affectionately with me for a while before completely ignoring Jiang Jinrong and headed straight back into the residence. Your Highness, it's me, Jinrong. I'm Jinrong. Stop shouting, Jiang Jinrong. I'd recognize you even if you turned to ashes. Jiang Jinrong glared at me, the hatred and resentment in his eyes more oppressive than the heavy snow of winter. But she softened her stance. Sister, I beg you to spare me a little something. I truly can't go on like this. Then, she began complaining to me about how Zhang Wenxuan indulged in drinking, gambling, and womanizing, and how he drained her dry. I have no other choice. I stopped my brother's entourage, but he ignored me. I pleaded at the Chancellor's residence, but they shut the door on me. The only place left for me to turn is the Eastern Palace. I can only beg you, sister, I was wrong in the past. Please save me. Just give me anything at all, so I can survive in the Imperial City. I walked up to her and casually pulled out a golden hairpin from my bun. Is this hairpin enough? Jiang Jinrong nodded obsequiously while reaching for the hairpin, but the moment she touched it, she suddenly flipped it around, aiming the sharpest end straight at my heart. Yet before the hairpin could harm me in the slightest, Jiang Jinrong was kicked to the ground by the Eastern Palace guards. Her body had been worn down by years of torment, making it extremely difficult for her to get up after being kicked down. I stood up, looking down at her. Sister, life hasn't been kind to you these years. Has it? Jiang Jinrong clutched the golden hairpin, raised her head, and cursed at me. This is all wrong. In the dream, it wasn't like this. In the dream, I was the one who became the crown princess, and you, Jiang Jinhe, were the one abandoned. It's you. You stole my fate. All this glory and wealth were supposed to be mine. The title of the prime minister's daughter was mine, the prince of Qin was mine, and the crown prince was mine too. Seeing her behavior like this, I guessed she had already regained memories of her past life. When did you remember? Jiang Jinrong touched the scar on her forehead and met my gaze. 3 years ago, on the day of my wedding, I fell and broke my forehead, and then I remembered everything. Good. I said with a smile. I was afraid you wouldn't remember. For these 3 years, you must have been thinking, everything she has should have been mine. How dare she take what was rightfully mine? You must be in great pain. Lying awake night after night with resentment, and just thinking about it during the day makes you so angry you could vomit blood. Though alive, you suffer the torments of the damned. Isn't that so? Jiang Jinrong stared at me in horror, as I had almost perfectly described her inner turmoil. As for why I knew so clearly, because I too have personally experienced it, being the true heiress yet living 18 years of a lowly life. I want Jiang Jinrong to fully understand what she once possessed, and then take everything back from her. Only then will it be the ultimate torment of the heart. Sister, do you have the courage, like the me of the past life, to kill your husband and flee? Seeing the panic on Jiang Jinrong's face, I knew she didn't dare. That means Zhang Wenchuan is still alive. That's fine. I'll have someone send my sister back to Zhang Wenchuan. After all, it was my royal decree that brought about this marriage of yours. Jiang Jinrong suddenly looked up. It was you. You're the one who pushed me into this living hell. Trembling at the thought, she shrank back and pleaded. No, don't send me back to Zhang Wenchuan. I'd rather die than live like this. I'd rather die. She suddenly grabbed the golden hairpin in her hand, on which was carved a vividly lifelike peony symbolizing wealth and nobility. She stared at the peony and laughed. She had dreamed of wearing such a golden hairpin, the very style reserved for the crown princess. Her expression changed abruptly, and suddenly, she clutched the hairpin and plunged it toward her own heart. The guards were utterly bewildered. I could see clearly that Jiang Jinrong, recalling her past life's marital bond with Gu Jiuzhao, actually believed that in this life Gu Jiuzhao must still harbor lingering affection for her and would never abandon her to life or death. The stab she inflicted on her chest wasn't deep, just enough to draw a little blood, before she collapsed pitifully into the snow, murmuring, Your Highness. Your Highness, Jinrong is in so much pain. Your Highness. I withdrew the guards and instructed everyone to leave her be. He was indeed breathing rapidly, his entire body burning hot, exactly the same symptoms I had when I was drugged in my past life. Ming Yuer grabbed his father's ear with his tiny hand, giggling uncontrollably. When they saw me arrive, the father and son stopped their playful antics with a smile. I told him. Jiang Jinrong stabbed himself and collapsed in the snow. Calling your name, waiting for you to save him, Gu Jiuzhao said. Why are you telling me all this? Come and see. Today I personally taught Yuer how to write. What character is that? Led by the father and son to the desk, I saw a crooked, childlike character written on the rice paper at the center. It's the name of Yuer's mother. Mommy, mommy. Yuer clapped his hands, asking me to hold him. I quickly picked him up and kissed him repeatedly. Yuer is so amazing. Gu Jiuzhao competed for attention beside us. What about me? Is Yuer's daddy amazing too? Amazing, amazing. I perfunctorily rewarded Gu Jiuzhao as well, but he took it a step further by holding on to me and refusing to let go. The study was filled with the joyful laughter of the family of 3. Early the next morning, a woman froze to death at the entrance of the Eastern Palace, and the guards hastily disposed of her body. When I was 10 years old, my foster mother once told me that if I didn't learn to please guests well, I would freeze to death in a snowstorm one day. She told me not to compare myself to the young ladies of noble families, whose futures would be filled with wealth and marital harmony. Everything she said came true. I am the precious daughter, and I am the crown princess. The wealth and prosperity are mine, and the harmonious marriage is also mine. The one who froze to death in the heavy snow was only her own daughter, the impostor who stole the nest. In this life, the derailed lives return to their rightful places, the pearl shines anew, the phoenix returns to its nest, the end.